Good morning. This is the Blaine's World show that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You get more information, find out about past shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce a neighbor of mine, also a friend of mine, attorney and actor Denise Lockett, for being on today's show.
Thanks.
And welcome aboard, Denise.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Blaine.
Okay, and what you can do, Denise, you can wave to all your friends, fans, and friends who are watching, and that's Denise. Denise Lockett is an attorney here in Asheville with a focus on healthcare law. She also has significant experience in civil litigation matters, from family law cases to housing disputes, with more than 25 years practicing law. I have to stop you just a second. So you were like the youngest woman to ever enter the field of law in North Carolina? You started at 7, was that it? I
Thanks.
can't believe 25 years there, but she appreciates the opportunity to assist clients in navigating legal options and offering effective advocacy. Originally from Johnson City, Tennessee, Denise is a graduate of Mary Baldwin College, North Carolina State University, and the University of North Carolina School of Law. She is a James E. and Carolyn B. Davis Society for Public Service Award recipient and member of the Phi Beta Kappa and Omicron Delta Kappa honor societies. And Denise, the question I always ask the first time I meet somebody is, as a young woman growing up in Tennessee, did you always know you wanted to be an attorney?
No, I did not. I actually thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. And yeah, this was kind of a circuitous path, I would say. But I got interested in the law because I actually ended up getting a graduate degree in English and was working as a technical writer in the Raleigh area. And while I was doing it, that just felt a little kind of removed and not super meaningful. And so I started volunteering with a local domestic violence shelter. And while doing that, this was long ago, so we had pagers and we would get calls from people who were experiencing domestic violence. And we would call them back, but I would always have to preface it by saying, I am sorry, I cannot give legal advice because I'm not an attorney. And that just sort of sunk in with me because a lot of the calls were asking for legal advice. And I thought, I have this English degree and, it's dealing with words and sometimes argument, and maybe law school is not a bad idea. So I actually knew someone who had gone on from my English program at NC State to law school at Chapel Hill. And the professor was kind enough. It was Professor Day. It was a torts class, and he's a genius. And they let me sit in on the lecture. And I was like, okay, this is really fascinating. Maybe this is something I can do. And so I thought, well, I'll take the LSAT, I'll throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. And that was the only school I applied to, and I got in, and I was like shocked. It was not a lifelong plan at all. But
And I appreciate you gave the shout out to Professor Day, and we'll get him a copy. Is he still around?
yes, he is.
Well, let's try to track him
Thank
down. We'll
you.
send him a copy of the tape that so we mentioned him on the air. And so you went to law school, but the thing always amazed me about you, Denise, is I guess I first met you as an actor also. And so how did acting fit into this whole background?
Well, it's funny because when I was an undergraduate, I was an English major there and read a lot of Shakespeare and acted in some bit roles. It was a small college, so it wasn't that hard to get cast. But I did not think of that as a huge passion for me until after our kids, we have two kids, they were in high school and they were doing their own thing and they didn't really need mom as much, right? And so I thought, this is maybe a chance to get a little creative and just kind of see what's available. And I had really enjoyed seeing productions at Asheville Community Theater, Heart. The Magnetic, just wonderful venues here, so much talent. And I thought, well, I'll just, see if I might get cast for something, right? And actually, I want to mention too, Michael McCauley was an instructor that I had, and he was fantastic. There was an opportunity through All Souls Cathedral to take a night class with him about acting skills. And he was just brilliant. And what we did, um, all of the participants were cast in roles in The Tempest. And we staged The Tempest there in the church facility, like I forget the name of the hall, but it was the church hall. And it was just transformed into a Shakespearean stage. And it was magic.
Well,
So
by the way,
that kind of, I guess,
yeah, thank you for mentioning that because Michael has always been one of my favorite actors too. He's just an amazing actor. And so we'll get him a copy of this tape saying, Michael, we mentioned you on the air today, but that's a great story. So that got the bug in, I guess that really got the bug in
yeah,
you that you wanted to act. And
yeah,
so,
it did.
but it's also, to your credit, it's a very time consuming kind of passion or hobby that when you're also practicing law, to also be acting at the same time. But when the kids, I guess when the kids got older, that's when you started acting.
Yes, yes, because I had spare time. They and now one is in college and one has graduated. So, they're I'm an empty nester. And so now there's even more of that free time. You're not going to a soccer game or going to, something that they're doing. And so there's some discretion with what you do with that time. And so I've just found it to be very energizing to be in productions because the level of talent and just the goodwill among the actors, the skill of the directors, it's just when I used the word magical earlier, I really do feel like there's this amazing chemistry that happens, on set. And especially when it's, um, when you're dealing with a live production and there's a level of energy, just a little bit of the unknown that's always there, and there are different nuances every night and different takes on things. And so I feel like that's something that even though it does take time, it's also giving a lot of good energy back, to the participants.
Well, since you're talking about acting, let's just keep on discussion of that for a little bit, and then we'll go to your law work. But when you're acting, then, what was your first role you did in Asheville? Do you recall?
Well, after the class with Michael, I was actually cast in a very small role. I think it had maybe two lines. It was in Asheville Community Theater. Uh, it was the best Christmas pageant ever, and I was one of the kind of fuss budgety ladies. I don't know, it was Mrs. Clark, and I just had like two lines, fretting about things, but it was just that magic of being part of just an ebullient and joyous production.
By the way, a recommendation, if I can, to you or to anybody listening or watching, is to see the film version now. Have you seen it yet?
No, I've read the book,
No,
but I've
the
never
book,
seen the
but
film.
they have a film version out now. I just saw it last
No.
weekend. It's
Oh,
it.
wonderful.
Oh, you'd love it though. It's very, very well done. So that was your
I'll
first
check it
role.
out.
Yeah, it's in Nashville. You'll get a kick out of it. So that was a small role, but what do they say? There's no small parts. It's just
That's
what's the
true.
expression? No small, whatever it is,
Just, yeah.
but something along those lines. So that they got you going. Then what are some things you did after that?
So, I was there was a ghost ensemble in a production at um of Hamlet at Montford Park. I was one of a series of ghosts, and that was Melon Weddick who directed
Sure.
that, and she's brilliant, as you know. And that too, I think Montford does so many just out, thinking outside the box kind of productions with Shakespeare, and just a level of engagement with the audience that's very rewarding. And so I was very energized by that experience.
But
Had so much respect
you
for
said
the
you were there was a
cast.
series of ghost roles. You played a bunch of them.
So the ghost was actually kind of a choral effect in that production. So there were several of us. And, if you can imagine different sizes, different, different gender, different, but we were all we had this, it really was kind of a chorus effect, and it was super creepy. So, which is, the intent. But
Well, one of the things I've liked about seeing you on stage is that I've always seen you in different kinds of roles. It's like I don't know if I can typecast you in one particular role, but you played a bunch of different things over the years, have you?
oh yeah, yeah, many different things. Yeah, in fact, there was during the one act that I at Magnetic I really enjoyed. I was in a production that it was based on the speed dating trope,
Oh,
and
right.
I had yeah, and that was the way and I apologize, I can't think of the author right off the top of my head for that script, but it was just so the dialogue was just dovetailing so well and just so witty. And I think I've really enjoyed the opportunity to play kind of the sharp-witted woman who was, in this speed dating situation with this sharp-witted man, and they were just doing one-upmanship, line after line after line after line building. And but then there is a climax where they actually get into vulnerability, and they're sharing very sweet memories because it's a widower and a widow, it turns out, and this is their first opportunity trying to date again. And you see this whole other facet, this whole other side of each character. And yeah, that was fantastic.
It
So I
reminds
have enjoyed that
it
diversity.
reminds me of the fact I'm going to miss, and I do miss. You did that at Magnetic, right? Was that at Magnetic?
Yes,
And
yes,
it's a shame there's no Magnetic anymore. But that was just they did such cool stuff. I recently saw you.
yes.
What was the last thing I just saw you in at Hendersonville? You were in what was that?
Oh, I was in Sordid Lives,
Okay.
and I was Sissy in Sordid Lives, and that was an amazing production, and it just a blend of comedy and yet really chewy themes about family and culture, and what it means to really support someone you love who's been been harmed by society, been kind of broken in some ways, but to come together as a family and claim, this is our kin. And yeah, that was an amazing, very energetic and humorous production, but some real, meaningful, deep themes as
Talk,
well.
talk about some of the range of stuff you've done, though. I'm thinking Montfort, and Shakespeare to sort of lives. That's quite a gamut of different kinds of plays. Do you have a favorite kind of play you like doing, or a kind of production you like being involved in?
Hmm. I the productions that I enjoy the most are the productions that have an issue or a cultural relevance that the audience is invited to think about, like something that might change perspectives or might give hope to people who have felt like, wow, I've never seen that voiced before, and I'm seeing it voiced on stage right now, and I am feeling emboldened by that or curious about that. So I like things that are socially relevant, but also um, engaging, like using humor, using um, visual engagement or sound or facets of the production to really draw the audience in. And I just feel that we have so much, so, so great, I don't know how to express it, but like just an amazing cornucopia of talent in this area. I mean, people who have um, years of experience doing professional level work and, oftentimes doing things for very little pay or for free, bringing their talents to bear. And so every production in which I've, had the good fortune to be cast, I feel like um, I've grown as a result, and I've had some amazing opportunities to work with people who are at the top of their game.
You have a bucket list of things you want to, if you could name one show you'd ever want to do or be in, do you have something comes to mind?
Gosh. Um, you know, I
Okay.
I really I can't nothing comes to mind other than things that are like some things that I have had opportunities like such as Hamlet. I've been in a couple different productions of it and I never get tired of it. I just have to say some of the lines are gorgeous. And so I could be in that every year and just be over the moon. I think I mean, I know some people feel like, oh, I don't know, they would be rolling their eyes about that, but I just think that that is an amazing, amazing work of art. So,
Down the
yeah.
road, do you ever see yourself directing?
You know, I would, I would hesitate to say that I could do that at the scale that most of the productions here are. If there were some opportunity to do a one act, I would love that. That would be my level, I think. I don't see myself ever directing a large production.
Okay.
But in terms of something where it's almost like a short story, a one
Right.
act, you've got a discrete amount of time, you've got something interesting that's going to pull the reader or the observer, the audience participant in, and then, a nice little sweet wrap it up, or maybe leave in a question mark. But it's very discreet and manageable. So I think I could take a stab at that. That would be fun.
The thing that amazes me, Denise, about you and all the actors in Asheville is the whole issue of being able to memorize stuff, memorize lines. And I guess that's where your law school background probably helped. But I assume, do you have a good memory?
So I'll be honest, as as time goes by, I think it's harder. I'll be honest, I really do. Like I think as some of us at least experience getting older, I think I'm not as facile with it. Like I can remember when I was a child, my parents were in this production at our church, right? And it was like a musical and I had their lines down pat, like in just a matter of days, right? Because I feel like your mind is so
Wait,
plastic
Denise, let me
then.
let me jump in just a second. We lost you a little bit on the sound. Maybe stay where you are. When you get close, I think it got jumbled. So you were telling about your parents, when you
Sorry.
were a child, yeah. And what about them?
Yeah. So so I was able to memorize all of their lines and all of the songs in just, a couple days basically, and I knew them backwards and forwards. Now I
Okay, we're on a little pause delay
their
here.
lines.
Okay, sorry about that, folks. We're back with Denise Lockett, friend of mine, lawyer, actor. We're talking about some of her acting background. And you were saying, Denise, that as a child, you were in this play. You said you were just a young kid, and it was very easy if you remember everything.
Yes, I mean, like I knew everyone's lines, I knew all the songs, and you're so plastic then, and you just absorb it. Whereas, at this point in my life, I really have to focus on skills to memorize, and make sure that I just run through lines over and over again. I do think that as soon as you start rehearsing with the other actors, though, and you have the physicality that goes with the lines, that really cements it, and that helps, that's just immeasurably helpful.
You remember to get the lines down. Do you ever involve your family? Do they help you out?
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to my husband David because he has been very patient about that. Yeah, he'll definitely read lines with me.
Okay. Or will we ever get to see him in a play, or can you ever get him on stage?
Oh, he has no interest in that. No, he likes to be in the audience, but yeah.
Okay. Because you might know them, but Mike Yao and Karen Covington Yao, you know them?
Yes,
And they're the only
yes.
couple I know, Denise, that they don't like reading lines with each other. For some reason, they don't, they like doing it themselves. So we're talking a little bit about your acting, and I guess you just went through some auditions. We hope we're going to get something in the future.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've got callbacks at Hendersonville Theater, which, as you know, they've done so many amazing productions in the last several years, and just the level of craftsmanship and artistry and just the magic that they make happen there in that space is yeah, it's something to behold. So I'm hoping. I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Okay, well, my fingers crossed too, because I just love seeing you on stage. And so let's switch from there, from the acting. We want to reverse this. We were originally going to talk about your legal stuff and move into the acting. But in your spare time, you also do other work as an attorney. Okay, and let's talk a little bit about that work as well. So you graduated from law school, and then you went primarily, I think it's how I met you originally. You were in the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, so I was with both Pisco Legal and Legal Aid of North Carolina, both of which provide free legal services to individuals and help in all manner of civil legal cases. So, housing law, consumer issues, unemployment cases, right now, helping with the FEMA application and any kind of denials, that sort of appeals process, things like that. They also, a great amount of the work that I did was in the family law area. So that would be child custody and domestic violence primarily. So, yeah.
I guess, especially in the nonprofit sector, that must have been very rewarding to do that kind of stuff. You're helping people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a shame because they're both such great organizations, just helping out people and something that's very needed. But then I give you a lot of credit because after working in the nonprofit sector, then you shift gears. And that's kind of I imagine it was a big switch with you when you went to Robertson Stevens. Stevens, yeah.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and what are you doing for them?
So I'm with a healthcare group there, and so it's a pretty diverse set of well, and in terms of our area of emphasis, we're typically helping healthcare professionals. So I like to think of it as we're facilitating um, the good work that they do, right? By advising them, by representing them. So, different local hospitals and different individual practitioners, those are the folks that we advocate for. And so there's any manner of things, that could entail. But yeah, I feel like that practice, even though it is a huge switch, it's inherently interesting work. Well, I really think that it's still fundamentally about advocating for people, and that part's something that's consistently been rewarding for me personally and professionally. And I feel like this is just sort of a new context for it.
So what's the favorite part of the job you do in that context? Or the most interesting thing you do?
Well, I think my favorite part is when I actually talk with individuals that can clarify an issue for them and kind of reassure them, oh, this is what your options are, or this is the appropriate next step, and just sort of like paving a way, like you're trying to make something that was murky clear. And if you feel like you were able to do that for someone so then they can be more effective in their own, you know, practice, that's very rewarding. Um, in terms of like what's actually the interesting, there's a lot of research that happens. These cases, you know, take years, a lot of them. So there are many different levels, almost strata of information to go through and to figure out, you know, what happened, how to present the information most effectively, what's relevant, looking at professional journal articles, looking at case law, and, you know, seeing what precedent might help explain what should happen next in the case, and, you know, what a just outcome would be. So I think that yeah, it's just inherently very interesting work because of sometimes there's very complex issues, but you know, you can break it down. And then there's also the opportunity to work in a collegial way with others who've been doing it far longer and, you know, have a lot of, um, I would say, expertise and passion for what they're doing. So that's inspiring too.
What I find interesting is that it also, I guess, gives you the opportunity to bring in your English background in terms of you were saying you're writing and make, I guess what you said is the key. You try to make things clearer for people, you know, and I guess one of the things that a lot of lawyers have to deal with is that they're not as clear as they think they are or should be. And I guess that's where you can help them try to make things so other people can understand them.
Yeah, I absolutely think that that's one of the, you know, the biggest assets that we can have as attorneys is the ability to take information that is fairly complex and make it accessible and and to do it in a way that to me um enables people to make right choices, right? So
And I guess that's why you work with an attorney to help you make right choices, as opposed to, I guess it's better to work with an attorney before they make a decision or choice, as opposed to after the fact. I guess you rather help them react to something, not to come in after the fact.
yeah,
You know?
typically.
And Denise, one of the other things that has always amazed me too is that in addition to doing these 27 other things you do, act and be an attorney, be a parent, whatnot, you're also involved and you have been in the volunteer community in Asheville. And specifically, I'd like to just talk about two things. You were on the board of the Food Connection. Was that it? The group of board for the Food Connection? And they're also and you're serving on the board of uh, Food for Fairview. If you would talk about those kinds of things you do.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate not that long after we had moved here actually to um be invited to join the board of Food for Fairview, which operates a free pantry for the community in Fairview and out of the community center. And you know, it's already a long-standing organization. I apologize, I can't tell you when it was founded, but it has been a consistent hub of food and other resources, such as back to school supplies, for years. And the distribution is, you know, it's like a shopper's choice, a pantry shopper's choice. So individuals living in the Fairview area, families, can get staples that they need, and it's it's been such an inspiration to work with this diverse board, to make sure that this resource is sustainable for the long term. And I feel like it is, I don't want to say seamless because nothing is, that makes it sound like there's no effort involved, but I mean, it is a well-oiled machine. and Bart and Leslie Austin managing that pantry, um, just just a consistent resource for people. And now more than ever, we need, as a community, to know who our go-to resources are for things like food, and staples, particularly in the aftermath of the hurricane. And I think that this organization has just um, been something that people could rely upon for years and years and years. And I'm so grateful to be just a small part of, sustaining that. But there's a lot of great volunteers too in the community. I just want to shout out. There are folks who have lived here for years who will volunteer to like pack the shelves and clean things and move things. But also, there are a lot of people who retire and move to the Fairview area, and then they find out about this pantry. Yeah. And then they're like, hey, I want to help out in some way. And so we've just been blessed with a very rich group of, um, individuals with hearts of gold who, devote their time and energy and money to support Food for Fairview. So it's been great. And Food Connection too, I want to shout out because they too just have been an incredible resource for the all of Asheville and Buncombe County, just preventing food waste, right? So they're taking food that would otherwise go in the garbage, go in the landfill, and yet is perfectly good, usable, and often very high level culinary kind of product, and taking it and packaging it so families and individuals who are in need of a healthy, warm meal will have that. And so I think that they too have been an amazing resource. And it's kind of interesting that both of these are food organizations that I was, fortunate enough to be involved with. And I think, that's kind of, it's not something I particularly sought out. It just, they were opportunities that happened. But to me, to provide something so fundamental as nourishment for others, is inherently rewarding. And, one of the most inspiring acts that we can do for one another is provide a meal. So,
Listening to you, Denise, we don't have time to talk about it, but at some other time we should talk about your skill in juggling, because I'm listening to you and I'm finding it hard to believe you do all these things sort of simultaneously, in terms of you're acting, you're volunteering, you're working in the law firm, you're raising a family. You'd be a good juggler, in your next career. No, so I'll ask you, it seems like you don't get a lot of sleep, or do you find time to sleep with all this stuff? It seems to keep busy.
oh yeah, well, I can keep busy. Yeah, but I feel like I don't think I'm any busier than the next person. I feel like all of us are pretty busy.
Well,
But yeah.
I just want to give you credit for all that you're doing, both in community and professionally. And I guess a final question, if folks want to find out more about Denise Lockett, what's the best bet to track you down? What, Facebook,
Um,
website, any other? They
yeah,
want to reach out.
you could go to Facebook, and yeah, I have a Facebook profile. I think most of what's on there, I mean, there's a lot of stuff about acting because I try to keep up with all the other actors in the community and stuff like that. But hopefully some inspirational reposts. I don't know. But yeah, that's a good venue.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you for all that you do, Denise, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I'd like to thank also my producer, Cappy Tassetti, and my hope is that we'll get to bump into each other, hopefully in the near future, at a play or some other place in Nashville. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.